Breaking right now on Denver 7 News at 5 o'clock. The FBI searching for top secret documents about U.S. nuclear weapons reportedly stashed at Mar-a-Lago. We're breaking down the legal case backing the agency's raid on former President Trump's Florida residence.
As kids head back to class, the new advice from the country's top doctors for how to respond to COVID. But polls also show many Americans essentially consider the pandemic over.
And the Broncos and Cowboys duked it out on the practice field yesterday ahead of their preseason game. We'll take a look at why things got a little chippy. It is a contact sport after all.
Guess so, yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this Friday morning. I'm Brian Sanders.
I'm Nicole Brady. We're doing our first official Orange Friday
there you go.
The Broncos'
We're
new
excited.
season.
Yeah.
Yes, exciting days. Lisa's got the blue on. I don't know if you can really.
I got orange bracelet.
And orange, okay. Yeah.
We're going to have to mix a little blue in here. There's only so many orange dresses and tops I can find out there. We've got a nice looking bus stop planner. If your kids are heading off to school this morning, 60s early on, a mild start, lots of sunshine out there, low to mid 90s. It's going to be pretty hot again this afternoon, 94 degrees by the time they get home, and then we're going to hit a high right around 97. So we're going to be a few degrees off from the record high today of 100, but pretty close to it. Boulder 94, Highlands Ranch 95, upper 90s to the north and northeast near Fort Collins and Greeley, and some triple-digit heat possible near Fort Morgan and Sterling. 70s and 80s for the mountains. Now, speaking of the high country, like yesterday, we'll get a few building clouds in the mountains and a chance for a few widely scattered thunderstorms today. A very slim chance of seeing any of that here across the plains today, but there's going to be a better chance this weekend. We'll take a look at your full weekend forecast on the Super 7 Day coming up.
And overall, the drive on this Friday looks pretty nice. We do have one problem, though, for us down to the south side of town where we're working on a problem down to the south side. Well, get to it here in just a minute. There we go. So it's going to be down on Lincoln Avenue, right there at I-25. It's on the westbound side, right here at that entrance that would take you to northbound I-25. Take a look from the camera back that way, and you can see the flashing lights. So it's reported as police activity. Now, westbound Lincoln is open. You can get past it, but the easiest thing to do is probably just go south on I-25, get off at Ridgegate, turn around, come back, maybe make the UE there, and then come back here, and then access northbound I-25 that way. So you can get around it, but there's no other big time delay anywhere around town. It looks pretty good for us, and about anywhere else, 270, I-76, I-25. Those will be some of the first routes to load up.
Breaking this morning, former President Trump says he will not fight the release of the search warrant that the FBI used to seize documents from his Mar-a-Lago resort.
Attorney and Denver 7's reporter Jessica Crawford joins us with the statements that come from overnight. Jessica.
That's right. Let me take you through exactly what former President Donald Trump had to say about the release of those documents. He claims that he actually supports them, writing on social media in part, "Not only will I not oppose the release of the documents, I'm going a step further by encouraging the immediate release of those documents." While he spoke out on social media, that's still not a formal response to Attorney General Merrick Garland's attempt to unseal the warrant. Trump has until 1 p.m. our time to oppose its release. Many people have questioned how the FBI can secure a warrant to search someone's home, or in this case, a resort. The bar is not very high here. Law enforcement has to present probable cause that evidence of a crime exists. And when law enforcement executes a search warrant, they can't just go looking anywhere they want to. These are very narrow in scope, so they can only search a particular location at the resort, and they have to list generally what they're looking for. Sometimes these warrants have attachments which would list the laws that the DOJ believes were violated and possibly an inventory of the items that were removed. We are learning that this search may not have been a big surprise to the former president. Trump received a request months ago for documents that he suspected to have not turned over to the National Archives. Now, some GOP leaders are vowing investigations into this search, and they say that they will do so if they are able to retake Congress. Live in Denver, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
Thank you, Jessica. This morning, we know the FBI was looking for classified documents related to nuclear weapons at Mar-a-Lago. The Washington Post reports experts in top secret information are concerned those documents could fall into the wrong hands if they're not protected properly. Details about nuclear weapons could provide foreign agencies a roadmap to counter those systems. The FBI has not commented on whether they were able to successfully retrieve the classified documents.
There's growing suspicion that someone within Trump's own inner circle told investigators where that classified material was. The circle is very small. Former acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney estimates only between 6 to 8 people are close enough to the former president to know that information. Of course, we'll continue to follow the investigation as it unfolds on air and online at thedenverchannel.com. How much is COVID really on your mind these days? A new survey finds 4 in 10 Americans say life is fully back to normal since the pandemic. Another 42% surveyed here said that it'll be another year before things get back to normal. 23% say we'll live with the virus forever. But more than half of Americans admit they are not taking any COVID precautions like mask wearing.
The guidance to handle the coronavirus is changing. There's much more focus on the outbreaks of COVID cases rather than individual ones, and trying to keep the severity of the virus down. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta joins us with new recommendations as kids return to school.
Well, for more than 2 years, we have heard things like stay 6 feet away from people, right, to reduce that risk of getting COVID. But just yesterday, the CDC released new guidance that just completely shifts from what we really heard at the beginning of the pandemic. The CDC now saying that we should move away from things like social distancing and quarantining, instead really focusing in on how to reduce that severe illness that can sometimes come along with COVID. And this is really different from what we saw in those really early days of the pandemic, right? It just goes to show just how much has changed. Mainly, that's the fact that most of the U.S. has some kind of immunity now, right? Some people are vaccinated, other people have that immunity from previous infection, and then, of course, there are those who have both of those. Now, when it comes to people who aren't vaccinated and have been exposed to COVID, the CDC now saying you don't have to quarantine. Just put that mask on for 10 days and then get a test 5 days after being exposed. Interestingly enough, though, the FDA said Thursday it now recommends you take 3 at-home tests if you were exposed to COVID, and that's just to boost the accuracy of those tests. Now, here at home, that local guidance, that's also changed a bit. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment now saying when it comes to schools and districts, they shouldn't focus so much on those individual student outbreaks. Instead, those really big ones, those group outbreaks, and of course, this all as COVID hospitalizations, those continue trending down. We're live in Denver this morning. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Thank you, Veronica. Denver parents, meanwhile, can get their questions about the new school year answered in a talk with district leaders tomorrow.
What we have heard from folks is, how is their child going to be returning to the first normal school year since the COVID-19 pandemic, which is a key question. And what we've told them is that we're working diligently with the superintendent to ensure that if anything ever needed to change, that our parents would be a key decision maker in that process.
Parents have also been asking about changes to innovation schools and special education. Tomorrow's meetings are at 11:45 at Athmar Rec Center and 2 p.m. at Lake Middle School. Parents, students, and community neighbors are invited.
Well, the Broncos are back at Empower Field tomorrow as we take a live look outside there now. The team's first preseason game will be against the Cowboys at 7 p.m. Exciting times that got a little chippy on the practice field yesterday. The teams got into a handful of fights. Some punches were thrown. Yeah, it was hot out there too. About 6,000 fans attended this joint practice at UC Health Training Center. Outside of the pushing and shoving, though, it was a great day for the Broncos offense. Quarterback Russell Wilson was throwing touchdowns instead of punches, and he couldn't stop gushing about his teammates.
I give credit to the guys, man. The investment they've put into it every day, every moment. It's all about them, and what they've done. It's been a joy to be able to work with them.
And speaking of Russell, it's still unclear if he'll actually play tomorrow night. If he does, it wouldn't be much. But defensive lineman DJ Jones said, we kicked their tails yesterday.
All right.
And defended their turf. So, that's half the battle right there, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch tomorrow. Just when gas prices are coming down, there's a new disruption to oil production. Why Shell and Chevron are shutting down massive platforms in the Gulf.
And college football is also counting down to opening day. I had a chance to talk with CSU's new head football coach about what he's looking forward to this season.